Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's the Historical Gamer, and today I am playing Steel Armored Blaze of War by Graviteam Tactics. As a quick aside, I know today was supposed to be the new episode of Single Malt Strategy, but unfortunately scheduling conflicts and just a busy, hellish week for myself, and I know a really busy week for Jean, Strategy Wargamer, meant that we weren't really able to get our episode 4 of the podcast recorded. Fear not, it will be up, if not sometime this week, then by next Monday, and maybe even just with a guest if John and I aren't able to get things together. But just wanted to let you know that. Also, if you saw my last video, you may realize, wait a minute, you never talked about doing this game at all. This certainly falls outside what I talked about the future of my channel being, but I think it might be cool to cover this game just a little bit. In this video, I'm going to show you the gunner tutorial, so it just kind of shows you how to shoot and, fight. And it's an interesting game, and it's really cool. As you can kind of see, you've got a fully 3D rendered tank in this game, and again, you can see your loader there loading up as you fire off a round or two. You've got these optics in front of you, as well as kind of just a regular external sight. So it's a really kind of fully immersive 3D simulation of tank combat. In relatively modern times. The game allows you to cover the M-60A1 tank, which is America's sort of bread and butter tank, as it periodically got upgrades to the A3 variant and other variants throughout the 70s and into the 80s when it was replaced by the M1 tank. You also have the T-62, which was a modernized version of the T-55 tank, and presents a Soviet perspective of a similar era tank. You know, the 62 and the US M60 both kind of were rivals, if you will. They were kind of tanks of the same era, and then the T-72 and T-80 would end up being the rivals of the M1. But the T-62 and the American M60 were kind of rivals during the Cold War, and this game allows you to play in a fully 3D rendered cockpit or tank of either of these. This is the gunnery scenario. The game allows you to be a platoon commander in charge of a platoon of tanks. It allows you to just be a tank commander in charge of one tank, and it's made by the Graviteam Tactics team. So the team that makes Graviteam Tactics has made a couple of World War II Eastern Front simulators, which are very authentic and realistic in their portrayals of kind of battalion-level combat. They're almost like combat mission for grogs. Whereas this is just a tank simulator, although there certainly are a lot of aspects that go around to it. There's infantry combat, you can call them artillery or air support, I believe, and then there's also these tanks. The games come with phenomenal physics and real-world kind of attributes. It's really neat to see your round fire and bounce off the armor. It's awesome to see your round strike an enemy tank and light it on fire. The game even has, and you'll see it a little bit later in this video, even has a level of realism where if you hit an enemy tank and it bursts into flames, sometimes some of the members of the crew will bail out while lit on fire and run around for a few seconds while burning. And not to say that that's cool, but I do think it does accurately represent and model some of the horrors of modern tank combat. So not so much cool as it is just authentic and real. I know in my last video I had talked about a couple of different games and series that I wanted to do, and I know in my Team Yankee review of that book I had mentioned that, hey, I'd really like to get into a good tank sim. If I had really found this prior to that review, I would have used this gameplay footage for it, but, I didn't. But as I said, so I'm really interested in a good tank simulator. There aren't a lot out there. There is Steel Beasts Pro, but that's a $100 military-grade simulation. And frankly, from what I've heard, the campaign in that isn't really all that up to snuff. It's a better simulation from a tank-on-tank fight perspective, but it's not better in terms of the campaign. Whereas Graviteam has a pretty well-regarded campaign. It may not be quite up to the snuff in the level of detail and accuracy as Steel Beasts, but Steel Beasts is also looking more at the M1 and kind of late 80s, I think, into modern day. And this particular game is looking much more at late 70s, early 80s sort of tank combat. It allows you to fight in either the Iran or the Iraqi side of the Iran-Iraq War within a couple of operations, both in 1981 and with the DLC into 1986, the Basra DLC. It also allows you to fight in the Angolian Civil War, and as the Soviets, I believe, driving a T-62 in Afghanistan. So it's a very much modern military simulator, almost like a flight sim. Like if you were to say Falcon 4.0 was kind of that ultra-realistic flight sim that looked at just the F-16, in a somewhat less detailed way, Graviteam looks at the M-60 and the T-62 tanks. In this case, I'm doing the gunnery scenario. I may have already said that. So I'm not driving the tank. I'm not doing anything else with the tank. There's the exterior shot of the tank. I'm just fighting it as the gunner. The game gives you up to battalion level combat. From what I understand, in the campaign, you can actually control a lot more than that and kind of micromanage everything. Or you can go the route of just being an individual tank commander. I kind of like the idea of just being the gunner in a tank and just kind of, saying, fire, reload, now I've got to figure out these targets as the tank maneuvers around. Although I do recognize that would pretty much just be a rail shooter and would be maybe not as appealing, but sort of this open sandbox where you can jump into any role within a tank is kind of cool. And you can see here on the horizon, you've got these enemy tanks moving. There's dust behind them. There might be some APCs there, but we're moving as well, which makes targeting very difficult. I just ordered a halt to the tank, so I do have that capability, and I just lit off a heat round at the enemy. You can see here, because it's an M60, the M60 has a laser rangefinder with a computer that handles fire control, so it makes shooting a lot easier. You'd have to kind of elevate and do a lot of guesswork or estimation if you didn't have that. But fortunately with this, you just have to worry about leading them a little bit, and then it's kind of point and click if you get a laser target on it. So you get that little red dot when it says basically, yep, we've got that range, we're adjusting. If that white dot turns red, I believe that means the target's hull down and you can't hit it. I think that tank did just duck below the horizon there. The game allows you to accurately model different types of rounds. So right now we've got heat rounds loaded up, which the U.S. uses more against like APCs and light armored vehicle. We also have Sabo rounds, which I don't know if they use the depleted uranium core that the M1 uses or if it's just like tungsten or something like that. But it's basically a heavy metal dart that just basically not burns, it just kind of punches a hole in the armor. And as it does that, it creates all the shrapnel inside the tank and, kind of kills the crew inside just by, a kinetic round. It's a kinetic round. It's a big giant dart that slams into the enemy and breaks through the hull. Whereas a heat round is actually a chemical explosion that turns a blowtorch on, melts through the armor, and then shoots fire out into the inside. And then you also have some high explosive rounds there. And the bottom right is where you can see the different types of ammo. So kind of the cone with the little dart on the end of it on the left with the number 15, that's the Sabo round. The round in blue and with the number 20, that's the heat round. And then the round to the right, which looks just more like a traditional shell or bullet, is a high explosive round, which would be more useful against infantry. Of course, as a tank with a tank gunner, I can also control the coaxial machine gun, which is kind of tied to the barrel. And the game has accurate physics and kind of weather and environment. You can see here every time I'm firing my main gun, my target's obscured with a whole bunch of dust that kicks up. And no, that's not the actual smoke from the barrel of the gun. That is actually the dust that's being kicked up around the tank as it fires. So in a later shot in the game, you'll see me kind of take an external shot, and you'll see and there's some infantry or maybe escaped tank crews that are kind of running around now on the map there. But you'll see in an exterior shot how it's not really the explosive that's causing that debris to kick up. It also makes figuring out if I hit my target rather difficult, although I guess my commander is shouting out things like hit or tank right or half right to indicate whether I hit my target or not. The chatter between the tank crew and the commander is really immersive and interesting. My only gripe with it is if you can hear it well, you'll hear it's in Russian, which is fine if I'm Russian or if I'm fighting the T-62 in Afghanistan, but I think it would be more immersive if, like, for the scenarios in Iraq and Iran, if like you were commanding an Iranian tank, it would be really neat if they were speaking Farsi, or if it was and that was a definite kill. You saw that explosion, and those tanks are already on fire there. You can see that. But if it was like an Iraqi scenario, it would be neat to have the troops speak Arabic, or if it was a Iranian scenario, it would be interesting to have your troops speak Farsi, rather than everyone always speaking Russian. That does kind of kill the immersion a little bit there. You see we got that tank. Oh, and there you can actually see You kind of get that individual flame running around. That's a tanker who apparently bailed out of his tank but was already on fire. So, interesting to say the least. It certainly is authentic, one would imagine anyway. And you can see here I'm making short work of these enemy vehicles. Now, they're not shooting back because, again, this is the gunnery tutorial, so it's not focused on me taking fire or fighting realistically. It's more just teaching me how to use my weapons. And you can see there I just used my coaxial machine gun and gunned down an infantryman. I'm looking for more targets. There's one of the tanks I hit earlier burning, and oh, a secondary explosion just went off. But it looks like we got some more tanks here in the woods. So again, just kind of engaging them. Again, this would probably get boring pretty quick if this was all I did for a scenario, but I think it could be neat to kind of try the Silent Hunter model as well, where you're telling a story. I don't know if I know enough history behind Iraq or Iran to really tell some kind of compelling story. I did just have my loader switch over to high explosives now because I'm seeing quite a bit of infantry or men all over the ground here. You can see here I just took an external view of the loader cam, I believe, and there my loader just loaded it up. There's my tank commander standing, and back to the optics. And I'm going to try and maybe gun this guy down with machine gun fire. But I don't know a ton of Iranian history or culture or society, so it might be difficult to try and tell a compelling sort of fictional story as if I'm just a member of a tank crew going through this particular fight. Definitely overkill. One infantryman trying to hit him with a high explosive tank round as these other vehicles all start cooking off. I don't think I got him either. But anyway, guys, so kind of that's my thought is let me know if this is interesting. Some of these tanks out here are target tanks around the target range. So, if I try and target that, the commander will say, no, that's not a valid target, cancel target. Yeah, this is the tutorial. So this is just a piece of what the game would look like. It's got an operational map as well, as I gun down those guys. It's got an operational map as well. You also have things like, I believe, infrared sights for night combat. So it's got a lot of different elements to the game, and it certainly is something I think would fit well on the channel. We could talk about some conflicts we don't talk a lot about. I need to do a little bit of reading. I don't think this is anything I'll start a series up immediately, but it's kind of more of a feeler to say, hey, does this look kind of interesting to you guys? Does this look kind of cool to you guys? Let me know what you think. It's not really a first impression so much as I think this is very well done, very authentically put together, and very compelling. We've got some more enemy tanks over here to the right. I'm going to switch my viewfinder to the point-and-click one. And we switched back over to Sabo, away from HE, so we should be able to take these guys out really easily. One thing that would be interesting is if I could reload better. Now, our tank repositioned to a place where the dust is even worse. So you can see there that took like 10 seconds for the dust to clear for me to be able to really see what happened. My commander did call out a hit, but I don't know if it was a kill or not. We've got 3 enemy tanks moving here, and I'm probably just going to target him again and make sure. Doesn't look like he's moving, so maybe we did get him, but we'll make sure, as this dust takes forever to go away. I think we're hull down kind of on a ridge line. Okay. Fire, die, hit. I wonder if when they call out that second thing, because sometimes they'll say like die or got him or something like that. There you can see the dust from the road just won't go away. But I wonder if when they yell that other thing, it means more than it means like an actual kill as opposed to. Anyway, I'm switching over to heat since I'm dealing mainly, it looks like, with APCs, so that way we can, more effectively take those guys out without wasting our Sabo rounds. We've only got 2 left. Does say mission complete. Okay, so tank gunner mission complete. I think that'll be the end of this video here. But I know I was kind of rambling. This maybe was longer than it needed to be, but I'm just kind of interested in your guys' take. I think I'm going to do it whether you want me to or not. This game seems like a lot of fun. The one thing that scares me about the Graviteam games is that they tend to be ultra, and I'm somewhat of a grog, but just even above my ability to consume. I don't want to read an 800-page manual to figure out how to play. And you can see here we won that, but again, this was just the tutorial. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if this is something that you're interested. I think I'm going to do it either way. But it's just an interesting little look at a relatively authentic tank sim. From what I've seen out there, there's really only 2 good realistic tank simulators. There's Steel Beast Pro, and there's the Graviteam game, Steel Armor Blaze of War. So yeah, I think despite the clunky user interface, it could be a lot of fun. It might be more approachable than like Graviteam Tactics, because those games are just a beast that I've tried really hard to get into and just haven't been able to thus far. So I hope you guys enjoyed my 15 minutes of rambling or so. I won't continue on. I was just kind of showing off the tutorial and talking about a series that I think this is the first video of, but interested in your feedback as well. So thanks for the feedback in the last video, guys. This one's more of just letting you know I'm also going to be covering this game and giving you kind of a sneak peek and kind of gauging your thoughts. But until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.